will be reading Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see.
Thank you, Brinkley. We have started this series that we're simply calling this thing called belief. And last week we looked at this idea of what is belief. Like when we get down to it, we talk about belief and we talk about faith and we talk about taking steps in our faith. And where we landed last week was this. The first step in our faith is belief. And belief is simply acknowledging in our minds that something is true. Belief is simply acknowledging in our minds that something is true. And so if we place our belief in Jesus Christ, we acknowledge in our minds that what Jesus Christ says is true. And we landed in this idea that is the first step in our faith. We don't have to have the next 5 years figured out. We don't have to have the next 5 days figured out. Jesus just wants us to take that first step and say, all right, what you say is true. I believe that. And we said that is the first step in our faith. Now, faith is another word that we throw around a lot in church culture. We talk about faith, and it seems like we throw it around enough that we should understand what it is, but a lot of times I feel like we throw around these words and we don't really grasp what they are and what they mean. And so tonight, I want to talk about what faith is. Because if belief is the first step in our faith, then we have to understand what faith is. The writer of Hebrews spends the first 10 chapters of the book talking about who Jesus was. And he explains who Jesus was and why he came and what he said and how he is God and how he was sent from God and he is the Son of God and he died on the cross and he reigns supreme and he came and he paid the price for our sins and we don't have to offer payment anymore because he paid it all and if we place our belief and our trust in him, we will be saved. He spends the first 10 chapters laying out the supremacy of who Jesus is. And then in chapter 11, he defines faith. And I love that he defines it in chapter 11 because the first 10 chapters, he is expressing to people, don't lose your faith. Don't give up your faith. Keep the faith. Stay strong in your faith. And in chapter 11, he finally explains what faith is. He says this, now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. We heard Brinkley read that just a little bit ago. Faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Now, I want to work this verse backward a little bit because I think it's a really, really deep verse. This idea of being certain of what we do not see, we kind of grasp this idea a little bit. We can be certain of what we do not see. Like, we don't see the wind, but we understand that the wind exists, right? And we don't necessarily see oxygen, but if we all right now closed our mouths, kept our mouth closed, and plugged our nose, then we would experience the lack of oxygen, and we would understand why oxygen is important, right? So we kind of understand what it means to believe in things that we do not see. I've got a couple chairs with me, right? And, I just want to give a quick demonstration of that because there are lots of things that we believe in that we do not see. I am confident that I believe in gravity. I am confident that I could step up on these chairs and I could jump off the stage and off these chairs, and gravity is going to make me fall to the ground, right? There is not a chance that I am going to fly up into the ceiling and up into the air. And so if I jump, I fall to the ground, right? Because we have this idea that we believe in things that we do not see. And we believe in those things. We know that to be true, and we know what it means to believe in something that we do not see. So we get that. The writer of Hebrews was writing to a group of people that followed Jesus. But the truth of the matter is that they hadn't seen Jesus. You see, he was writing after Jesus had already died. He'd already risen from the dead, and he'd already gone up into heaven. And so they could no longer physically see Jesus. Some of the people that he was writing to had never physically seen Jesus. We are in that situation right now. We have never physically seen Jesus. But when we have faith, we can be certain that Jesus existed. We can be certain that Jesus is who he said he was, and we can be certain that Jesus did in fact die on the cross, rise from the dead, and pay for our sins. We can be certain that Jesus is who he said he was, even when we don't see him. And so the Hebrew writer, we're not really sure who wrote Hebrews. We think it may be Paul, but we're not really sure. He is writing to these people and he's saying, listen, keep the faith. You know, you've talked to people maybe that have seen Jesus. I know you've never seen Jesus, but listen, faith is being certain of what we do not see. It's being certain that Jesus did in fact exist. And we can kind of grasp that because, like our gravity demonstration, I stood up on those chairs and guys, I was not the slightest bit nervous that I would go floating away like a minion in the movie Despicable Me, right? I was 100% positive. I was absolutely certain, even though that I've never seen gravity, I have felt the effects of gravity, and I was certain that that was not going to happen. I was not going to go floating away. Not a problem at all. And the Hebrew writer says, listen, we can be just as certain about who Jesus is, about his love, and about his sacrifice. Now, here's why I did this backward, because we grasp that concept. But it's a little bit more difficult to grasp this idea of being sure of what we hope for. This is a little bit more difficult to understand. You see, we don't say, man, I hope we have worship Uncoiled tonight because we're at worship Uncoiled, right? I can hope that it snows this winter and it's a deep enough snow that we actually get to play in and it's not just a little dusting, but I can't be sure of that. I can't be sure that we're going to get any snow. I keep looking at my weather app hoping to see at least a little bit of snow, but the 10-day forecast is clear from now until whenever, the end of January. It's crazy. We can hope for things, okay? We can hope, but we can't be sure. We experience this at Christmas. We can hope we get that gift that we really, really, really want. Or we can be sure that we're getting that gift that we really, really, really want. If we've seen our parents go out and buy that gift or they've told us we're getting it. But you don't hope for something you're sure of, do you? That's just not in our mental capacity to hope for something that we're sure of or to be sure of something that we hope for, because it seems like an oxymoron. How is that even possible? And the writer of Hebrews says this is how absolutely incredible our faith is. Because our faith allows us to be sure of something we only hope for. And that surety of something that we only hope for is that Jesus is in fact going to come back. Heaven is real. He really does want to spend eternity with us, and he is coming to take us to be with him. And when we have faith, when we take that step in faith, we can be sure of what we hope for. It doesn't mean we are sure that all of our hopes and dreams will come true, because we live in a fallen world. And the Hebrew writer is writing to people that are experiencing some really, really difficult times. But they can be sure, no matter what they are experiencing, that the hope about Jesus Christ is real. Can be sure of what we hope for. And here's the cool thing about faith. Whether we are taking that very first step and saying, I believe, or whether we have been in our faith for years and we are growing step by step by step by step. Belief and faith has the power to change your life. So the big question is, how does faith change your life? How in the world does faith change your life? Have you ever had one of those moments where you found a belief in something and you found yourself going a direction you never thought you would go? When I grew up as just a little guy, I drank pop. I drank Coke, I drank Pepsi, I drank Mountain Dew, Dr. Pepper, Cherry Pepsi, whatever it was, I drank it because pop is awesome, right? And so I just drank. I remember like going to my grandparents' house for Thanksgiving. It was nothing for me to down 4, 5, 6 cans of Coke. My grandparents loved Coke. They were always like, hey, you want a Coke? It was nothing for me to down that much Coke. I remember the 64-ouncers were commonplace. Going to the gas station and getting a 64-ouncer while I was growing up, that was commonplace. When Kirsten and I first got married, we really liked pop. We would go out and we would find it on sale, and obviously we would fill our entire cart full of nothing but pop. We obviously liked Mountain Dew and Pepsi at that time. And I counted in the picture, there are 22 12-packs that we got in the cart that day. We loved it. And if you had asked me back then, CJ, you gonna ever stop drinking pop? There is no way. My family drinks pop. I've drank pop my entire life. Kirsten and I love going to the gas station and getting one of those styrofoam cups and drinking pop. And it's just, I'm never gonna stop drinking it. But here's the thing. I believe in what Kirsten says. And one day, Kirsten came to me and she said, CJ, I think we should stop drinking pop because I think it will be healthier for us. And I kind of gulped and I was like, I'm not so sure about this. But here's the cool thing about belief and faith. As I said, all right, I believe you. It's going to be healthier. And we started this journey of not drinking pop. And I tell you what, it took well over a year, year and a half, 2 years. It was nothing that we could just be like, all right, I'm done, cutting it off. We went through process after process of not drinking pop. At our house right now, we drink water. That's pretty much it. We don't have pop in our fridge. We have milk that we pour on our cereal. That's about it. Every once in a while, we have some pineapple juice, but that's like this much a day if we drink any. We are water drinking people, right? Now, it started because Kirsten mentioned, hey, I think this would be a healthier lifestyle. And I said, I believe that. The cool thing about belief is it has the power to change your life. Whether you believe that not drinking pop is a healthier lifestyle, or whether you believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior of the world. It has the power to change your life. And the way that faith changes your life is not an instant turnaround. I can't tell you how many times I went a few weeks with only drinking water and then drank a whole bunch of pop. It's a step by step by step by step by step process. But I can tell you now, looking back, this was probably 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we made the decision that we believe that not drinking pop is a healthier lifestyle. We would have never thought, I would have never thought I would be drinking just water and occasionally coffee. Occasionally I still drink a pop, but it is rare. And that's the cool thing about our faith. is when we believe in Jesus, when we believe that what he says is real, we find ourselves doing things that we never, ever, ever thought we would do. We find ourselves saying, okay, oh man, I feel like Jesus is calling me to serve more. I should probably go talk to that person that's sitting alone. And if you ask your younger self, would you ever go sit down and talk to someone that's sitting alone? Your younger self would say, absolutely not. But because of your belief in Jesus, guys, it just starts with a thought. Maybe I should do it. Maybe you don't even do it when you first have the thought, and it's not instantaneous. But there's a change in your mindset, and you start to keep an eye out for other people, and step by step by step by step, you get closer and closer. Maybe for you, Jesus is saying, man, like maybe I should be careful of what I put into my mind. Maybe I should be careful about what I watch, what I listen to, what I read. Maybe for you, Jesus is saying, man, maybe I should like just express love to people around me. I remember one of those like where God said, hey, you should probably do this. When I was in high school, Napster had just come out. Does anybody know what Napster is or the history of Napster? Okay, so Napster, yep, the adults do. Okay, so Napster was basically Spotify, kind of, except instead of Spotify where you could stream it, you could just download whatever song you wanted. It was easy. You just clicked a button, that song went into, iTunes wasn't around back then, so just went into a playlist. You could burn as many CDs as you wanted. And I will never forget being grown up and looking at my library of songs and going, holy cow, most of these are stolen. And feeling Jesus say, you probably shouldn't have a whole bunch of stolen music. And wrestling with this idea of, oh man, like I spent time and energy and effort to get those stolen songs. And I remember going through my library and just remember, all right, let's get rid of that one and that one and that one and that one. And if you had asked me in high school, are you ever going to get rid of these songs? No, I'm not going to get rid of these songs. Why would I get rid of these songs? Like, it's not hurting anybody. But Jesus has a way of working in our lives. And when we say we believe in him, we read things that he says and we hear the things that he says. Love your neighbor as yourself. Well, who is my neighbor? Wow, I really need to change the way I treat some people. We hear the way that he says, pray for your enemies. And we think, oh man, that sucks. I don't want to pray for that person. But we find that person in our mind and praying for them. And it's not an instant thing, but because we say, I believe that what Jesus says is true, we find ourselves taking small steps in our faith. And our faith begins to change the direction of our lives, and it begins to change the course that we are on. And listen, our beliefs lead us to a destination. Our beliefs lead us to a destination. If you believe that drinking water is a healthier lifestyle than drinking pop, 10 years down the road, you're probably going to be drinking more water than pop. If you believe that Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself, 10 years down the road, you're probably going to be loving people more than you are today. And see, guys, here's where we fail as Christian culture. I have to apologize because so many times we as a Christian culture have failed you. We have said you have to take a giant leap, you've got to get it right, you've got to quit everything you're doing wrong, you've got to do everything right, and you've got to take a giant leap and be there now and be there today. And that's not the way that faith works. Christian culture has gotten it wrong. Jesus always promoted faith and a relationship with him as a one step at a time process. And we just allow him to work in our lives and take one step when he prompts us to. And when we take that one step, we look back at Hebrews chapter 11 and we say, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. And we see the truth of that being lived out in our lives. Faith changes our lives by a step by step by step process. And so my encouragement to you is simply this. What is that next step that Jesus is asking you to take? It's going to be different for all of us. For some of us, it's going to be more about the words that are coming out of our mouth. For some of us, it's going to be more about the way that we love people around us. For some of us, it's going to be a very internal, intentional, like, man, are you living what you believe? For some of us, it's going to be being more generous. For some of us, it's going to be the way we treat our siblings. For some of us, it's going to be our relationship with our parents. But no matter what it is for any of us, I can guarantee you that Jesus is speaking into your life, and he is saying, I want you to take a step with me. I don't want you to have the rest of your life figured out. We'll work on that later. Just let me show you how you can be sure of what you hope for. Let me show you how you can be certain of what you do not see. Just come take a step with me. I give a practical challenge every single week. And this week I have 2 practical challenges for you. The first is to simply answer the question, what is my next step? What is God asking me to do in my own life? What are the things that he wants me to just work on? And be honest about that. And really be honest about what your next step is. And then begin to work in that direction. The second challenge is, I would love for all of us to just memorize this verse. Hebrews 11:1. Faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Our faith has the power to change our lives. Check this out, and then the band can come up.